Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webcast roundtable. Is microphone mist technology just marketing fluff? My name's Cindy Davis. I'm the content director for AV Technology. Before we begin, I just want to go through just a few housekeeping items. At the top right of your screen, you'll see those three little lines for the menu. There you'll find multiple engagement tools, including the help engagement tool, where you'll find common answers to common technical issues. Hopefully you won't have them, but if you are still having issues, just enter it into the ask question box and we'll be monitoring that throughout the hour. At the end of the webcast, be sure to check out the related content located in the window to your right, and this contains additional information from Nureva. Throughout the webcast, please submit your questions via the ask question tool, and we'll answer some of the questions during the discussion as the topic comes up. And we've got a little bit of time for answering some questions at the end. And if we don't get to any of them, some of them, we'll be sure to follow up via email. So this is being recorded because I know you're going to want to watch this over and over again. On demand will be available in about 24 hours. Just use the same audience link that you used to sign in today. So I want to welcome our panelists. I'm really, really excited about doing this panel. It's honestly one I've wanted to do for quite a while. And I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves and your companies. And, let's start with Adrian, if you would.
Hi, I'm Adrian Doughty with Nureva here at our headquarters in Calgary, Alberta in Canada in one of our big rooms. And we're thrilled to be with you today. I'm responsible here at Nureva for our North American team. Great,
thank you. And James.
Yeah, and my name is James Rempel. I'm Director of Product Management here at Nureva. I'm also based out of our head office here in Calgary, Alberta.
Great, thank you. Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy Beasom at Duquesne University. Duquesne is a private Catholic university in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I work with a department of 4 people, and we are the AV installers across the campus classrooms and conference rooms. I'm also the control system programmer for our group and the IT guy, I guess, as well, as far as computer imaging and deployment and DHCP. I guess that's it.
Great, thank you. And Todd, if you would.
Hi, I'm Todd Hughes. I'm also at Duquesne University here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And my main job is doing all of the AV design for all of our classrooms on campus, as well as install, troubleshooting, and maintenance, along with Andy here at Duquesne.
Great, thanks so much. I'm going to answer the first question that's already come up, because I know some people joined a little late. The session will be available for replay tomorrow. Just use the same link that you used today to sign in. So, you know what? I want to start off with something that actually I've learned is not obvious to everyone. Why is full room audio coverage needed in the first place? And Andy and Todd, I know that at Duquesne, you've dealt with this issue, and so I think you can answer this question from experience. So if you would, that'd be great.
Sure. We found, prior to the pandemic, we did not have full room audio, and we had wireless microphones for the instructors in some of our larger classrooms. In other classrooms, we had no audio pickup whatsoever. Obviously, during the pandemic, as most of you have learned, audio has become one of the most important pieces of the puzzle when it comes to online education and doing what we term hybrid education now. So putting a solution like the Nureva microphone mist technology in the classroom has really solved that problem for us.
Great. So you know what, we're going to actually move right into what is microphone mist, and James, how did the idea of microphone mist come about, and what problem were you trying to solve at Nureva?
Yeah, well, the founders of Nureva have a long history in conferencing and collaboration, and they very early on realized that full room audio coverage is critical. If you have remote participants, they need to hear everyone in the room to feel part of the conversation, remote students need to hear both the instructor and their classmates in the classroom so they can feel part of the classroom discussion. And they also realized that in large spaces, like large meeting rooms like this that we're sitting in, or large classrooms, that the existing technology for achieving full room audio coverage, really expensive, really complicated. And so they decided to try and see if there wasn't a way of making it easier and simpler to deploy audio conferencing technology in these large spaces. So they put together a team of really smart people from diverse backgrounds, and they took a completely new approach to audio processing, and the result is microphone mist technology.
Nice. And we're going to be doing a demo a little bit later. So, from Duquesne perspective, what about the microphone mist technology that really made you want to take a look at it?
Well, like Todd said, we never had a need for any kind of full room coverage. Classes weren't recorded in the way that they are now. Duquesne uses Zoom, and all the classes are now recorded, and you want to engage with your students so that when they ask questions, they're picked up and recorded. And there was a time where the classes were 50-50. 50% of the students were in class, 50 were off campus taking it. You need to have that full room coverage so that everybody feels like they're participating and involved in the class. We had kind of on-demand, I guess, recording, you could say, in the past. People would record, we would take equipment, and we would do it. But now, since the pandemic, everything is recorded for, playback on demand, and you need to feel engaged as a student or the instructor, that everyone can hear and listen and participate in the discussions.
That translates also to the corporate environments. I know, when we talk about meeting equity, it's equity in the classroom, as well as corporate settings. That meeting equity has really been talked about a great deal. It is very important now. It should have always been important, but it's particularly important now. So how did the problem affect your ability to support the university in achieving its objectives?
Well, in our case, especially when the pandemic hit, we started to install a lot of equipment across campus, and we had one installation of a Nureva microphone in a very awkward space that was built in an 100-year-old gymnasium that was drywall walls, but it had a 2-foot concrete beam across the wall, and we had tried many solutions in that room, and never successfully achieved full room audio pickup. And having seen the Nureva at a conference, came back and said, should maybe try this. So in trying it, we were amazed at the sound pickup, as well as the ease of installation that the device was. So when the pandemic hit, in our larger spaces, we naturally leaned towards the Nureva. In a lot of our smaller spaces, we went with a much cheaper solution, mainly because we didn't have the budget for everything all at once. And after our associate provost taught in one of the rooms with the Nurevas, he said, "Why don't we have this everywhere?" So we went to him and said, "We can put it everywhere if you give us the money." So that started our build out across campus to where we now have 100 Nurevas across campus in all of our registrar classrooms.
Hearing is believing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. So you know what? We're getting a lot of questions in, and this is really going to feed right into our next question. And James, give us a sense of the microphone mist technology and how it works, if you would, because we're getting a lot of questions in about that.
Yeah. Well, our audio conferencing solutions consist of an array of physical microphones connected to a powerful processor that runs our microphone mist algorithms. And so our audio conferencing solutions essentially generate a field of virtual microphones that cover the entire room. And a virtual microphone is really a point in space on which we can focus microphone pickup. And so there are two processes that run in parallel. The first process is the targeting process, where each of the thousands of virtual microphones is monitored so the system can find the clearest and strongest audio signal in the room. Once that's identified, the second process kicks in, which is the audio pickup algorithm. And so audio pickup is focused on that virtual microphone. The first targeting process happens continuously. It refreshes about once every 100 milliseconds. So very fast operation, so it can follow a conversation about a room very smoothly and quickly. So the net result is that we can pick up all the audio in a room with a solution that automatically and continuously adapts to the room, both in terms of layout and acoustics, all with a solution that's very easy to install and configure.
Wonderful. And I hope everybody got to see that video, because that really helps solidify that. So we've heard microphone bubbles. Andy and Todd, microphone bubbles. What did you think when you first learned about the microphone mist and its claims? Were you skeptical?
100% skeptical.
Yeah. You see this thing that says mist and microphone mist and mist technology, and I'm looking for an umbrella. Am I going to get wet installing this thing? You know, what is all this mist that's coming from? But I mean, it's a pretty bold claim, right? I mean, this 36-inch roughly soundbar looking thing is going to completely, provide microphone coverage for a 25 by 25 room. It's a bold claim. And, so of course we were skeptical about it, but we're using them in rooms. I don't know if I can say this, but we're using this in rooms that are bigger than 25 by 25, and they work fantastic. It really does provide full room coverage. I
just put up the. Sorry, go ahead, Andy.
No, go ahead.
I was saying I just put up a picture that shows the lecture halls that we have it in. The lecture hall on the right there is our 275 seat lecture hall, and if you look right there on the front of it, you've got the Nureva microphone hanging behind the instructor, and that will pick up the room, pick up questions from the very back row from the students asking questions. So it works. I will tell you, both Andy and I's background is audio. Andy was a music tech major here at Duquesne. I taught for 20 years, both broadcasting as well as in advanced audio production. So our backgrounds are audio, and when I say that I was, skeptical, that's probably a minor statement. It sounded very much like just a marketing ploy, but as we've experienced it, I'm still kind of amazed at what this little soundbar is doing to pick up the audio in these large spaces that we've been putting them in.
Todd, before you leave, you're not going anywhere, but that question came in. Have you used this technology along with voice lift?
We have not used it along with voice lift. We're using it more for Zoom capture, for online hybrid classes, but we're not using it at this point for voice lift.
James, can you answer that question as to whether or not it can be used with voice lift?
I can add a bit to that. So our products do support a feature we call a voice amplification mode, where you can connect a wireless headset microphone to our Connect module, which is where all the audio processing happens. And so when you do that, the instructor wears a headset microphone. The instructor's voice is amplified through the speakers in the Nureva audio system. And what's really powerful about that is you can do that at the same time that you're in a UC&C call. So we're doing all of the cancellation and filtering required to prevent any feedback loops in the room or with remote participants.
Great. So, as you can imagine, we're getting a lot of questions in. Can a talker be detected if they're facing away from the device? Is the unit always put high up in the front of the room? We've got a lot of questions that I think James and Adrian can answer in a live demo right here.
Sure. So let's just dive into the practical use of what happens in, say, a standard boardroom like we're in here. So to give everyone on the webinar a sense of this room, it is 26 feet long and 18 feet wide. And I'll answer the question, can someone be picked up if the unit is behind them? Absolutely. Doesn't matter where they are in the room, they'll be picked up clearly and they can speak at their natural voice. You'll notice that James and I both stood up and moved, and we have full freedom of motion in the room. Why is that? Rooms aren't static anymore. People like to move. People like to do different things. You have an unpredictable number of people in the space. And critically, you also get a natural feeling. So if I stop talking and James takes over,
now I'm going to start talking. I'm going to interrupt Adrian. Maybe he'll interrupt.
I'll take the conversation back from there. You'll notice it's a very natural conversational flow. There's no switch. There's no setup. Everything is just exactly as though you were in the space with us. And this is just one example of a room, right? To talk about this room specifically, half the walls are glass, big reflective table. You can see the treatment on the ceiling. This is a pretty standard boardroom that our systems are deployed in across the world. And we make, to the point that the Duquesne guys are making, we make it easy to cover a wide variety of rooms with the same system wherever you need to be.
And I can't remember whether you mentioned this, Adrian, but we're using an HDL 310 in this room. The microphone speaker bar is just to Adrian's left there, high on the wall.
So I'm not sure how big the video is, but it's the black bar right above the displays here.
Oh, great. So I'm going to actually, while you, oh, go ahead.
Well, Cindy, I'll just answer one other question that came in there. I think the question was, do you always have to mount the microphone speaker bar high on a wall? Yes, for best audio pickup, our recommendation is that you mount the bar around 2.2 meters,
84 inches.
84 inches off the floor.
So, while you're doing the demo, continue to walk around. And we'll, do you have any issues with picking up too much audio? In fact, and all of you, Todd and Andy can fill in on this as well. Do you have too much audio? Students rustling papers or eating chips?
I actually think that's probably one of the things we like so much about the Nureva. I was just trying to look through the pictures quickly, and I don't see that this might be it here. So if you look at the picture on the left there, that's a 96-seat lecture hall. And if you look above the Nureva is the white box right here in the middle. If you look above here, that is actually the air handler system. At one point, we measured it at about 40 decibels. We've been working at trying to get it reduced from that. That microphone does not pick up, it rejects the air handler sound in that room. It's rather impressive that it does not pick up the air handler as it rejects that sound and picks up the human voice. So we're not getting a lot of extraneous sound, and they certainly don't pick up rustling of papers and things like that. It's very, very targeted at the human voice, and I assume James and Adrian could answer that clearly, but more precisely. But I would assume that that's probably tuned more towards human voice than outside extraneous noises.
Yes, yeah, it's the targeting algorithm is designed to target the clearest, strongest sound in a room. Another thing I'll add in about the way the system works for rejecting consistent or persistent noise sources in the room, we have a feature that we call intelligent sound targeting. And so the way it works is, as the system's monitoring all of these virtual microphones, if it detects a persistent sound source coming from a series of or an area of virtual microphones for a period of time, it will determine that, hey, this is a noise source, and it will basically ignore the virtual microphones around that noise source.
I'll also interject that if you look at that picture on the left, you'll see that the microphone is behind the podium. So the instructor is never facing the microphone unless they're standing at the whiteboard talking.
I think you can probably answer this question, Todd, with one of the other photographs you have. So actually, it's a couple. Does it have to be centered? And also, is there a configuration that will integrate with a school of 700-seat auditorium that is also used for a classroom on stage?
Well, I will say that no, it doesn't have to be centered. You can see in both of those. I'll throw a couple other pictures up here. Here's one where it's kind of a hexagonal or octagonal room. You see that we're on one of the diagonal walls. And in this situation, we've got on the back wall and on sort of the side wall next to the podium. So we have found that we can pretty much put them in the room so long as they're on a hard wall. They're going to pick up the room no matter where they're at in the room. As far as the 700 seat, go ahead, Andy.
No, I was just going to say, that's actually one of my favorite things about the microphone is you can pretty much put it wherever you want as long as it meets, it's on a flat wall. But your conduit where you're pulling your shielded Cat5 usually doesn't always come out right in the center of the room. So sometimes the mic gets installed wherever the conduit or floor track dictates where it's going to be installed. So that's one of the nicer things about it is kind of the flexibility to put it wherever you want.
Yeah, I can answer the question about the 700 seat room. I don't know what the dimensions of that room would be, but it sounds like it's likely on the big side for what we cover. The Nureva solution that covers the largest space is the HDL410, which we've just launched a few months ago, and it can cover 35 feet up to 55 feet.
Just to tag on to James's point there, that's one of the things that sets the Nureva line apart is really, once you know the footprint of your room, you can kind of plan where the systems will go based on what you're trying to make it look like. And what happens in that room is important, but as you've heard here, kind of wherever it goes, it is going to pick up that whole room as long as it's installed correctly.
We're going to stay right here on some questions because we've got just tons coming in. Can they be monitored remotely?
Yes, the 310 and the 410 both support full direct connect to the internet for remote management. The HDL 300 and the dual HDL 300, our first generation products, can do that via the host PC with an app installed.
And actually, Andy and Todd, you were early adopters of Nureva Console, which is a cloud-based management system.
That's correct, and I will say that whenever you guys put out a firmware update, which isn't often, which is nice, but when you have, I think the last firmware update I had 80 of these, but when you put out a firmware update, it's nice to just click update all, and all 80 some now would be 100, all of them get it. So the cloud management is nice.
Great.
And that's included with every system.
Great. So we're going to move on to the next topic, which is going to cover a lot of the questions that have been coming in. So how is microphone mist different? The traditional mic technology used in meeting and learning spaces is beamforming. How does mist differ from this approach?
I can field that question. So yeah, with other technologies for outfitting large spaces with full room audio coverage, typically you're dealing with discrete microphone and speaker elements. And with omnidirectional microphones, they have a limited pickup range. With beamforming microphone elements, you're typically picking up sound within a beam or a lobe in a room. And so that means you kind of have to pick and choose the elements that you need to fill a room. You essentially have to custom design the audio system for every room. With microphone mist, it creates a much more flexible solution. So the Nureva audio conferencing systems include speakers, include onboard echo cancellation. They include continuous auto calibration, so they will automatically adapt to the size and acoustics of the room. So really, you don't have to design an audio system for every room. All you need to know is the size of the room and the color that you want, black or white.
Yeah, can I jump in there and just say that's one of the things that Andy and I have been very appreciative of the Nureva. We have installed some beamforming microphones in some rooms, some fairly high-end beamforming microphones, and they work really well. In our mock courtroom over in the law school, we've done that, but they also took about 4 hours or so for Andy and I to install one. The Nureva, the two of us go in, and even with pulling cable through the wall and everything, we can be out of room in 45 minutes. So there's a huge resource savings in time for the two of us to go in and do an install with the Nureva, which is one of the things we really appreciate.
So this feeds into a question we've got here. Is it auto setup, or does it need to be set up by an AV integrator?
Yeah, as far as we're concerned, it's auto setup. 2 screws go in the wall. We hang it on the wall, run the cable, and plug it in.
The hardest part is pulling the cable. I mean, they include a 50-foot shielded Cat5 cable. Sometimes we can't use that because there's not enough room in the conduit. So we pull our own shielded, it's actually a Cat-X cable. So we'll pull that, and then we'll terminate the ends, and then it's really just about 10 minutes after that. So once the wire is pulled, it's very, very simple.
I think some of these were questions were probably already answered in the demo, but James and Adrian, if you since you're in the demo room, let's continue with that. Somebody asked if you can demonstrate noise rejection.
Noise reject? Oh, so like with us typing or something like that?
Well, yeah, you don't really have much in that room, do you?
We don't, and that's by design. So the best way to show that is, again, I don't know how big the video is.
You can see it. Yep.
Can you see the black strip on the ceiling here?
No.
No?
Yeah, there's an HVAC vent.
There are 3 vents, 1 air handler in this room, and they're perpetually on. So we're in Calgary in Canada, so the Great White North, where today it is 60 degrees, middle of summer for us. So the heat is the air conditioning is rolling, but you don't hear it. I know you don't hear it. And that's automatic, so there's no programming there. And that would happen if we brought in like a desk fan. It depends on how loud the noise is, but it's anywhere between 30 seconds and 5 minutes at the other end.
Well, actually, we
really crazy.
Just released a new firmware load that drops it down to 4 seconds.
4 seconds. So it now takes as little as 4 seconds to identify one of those persistent noises. Now, the other thing that comes up is the sounds of humans. That was a question, right? Papers rustling, things like that. The best way to show that would probably be just a quick example of typing. So standard wireless keyboard. I'll just walk up close so you can see that I am actually typing and not pretending. And so I'll just run my hand over the keys, and as I talk, you're not going to hear the keys. You're going to hear me more than the keys. Like tapping my nails on the table, that could work. So there you go.
So I'm not hearing that keyboard louder than you, which is great. Alrighty. Tapping your nails on the table. Yep, got that. So is there tuning required?
Tuning?
The system tunes itself. So when you first install it and power it up, it goes through what we call our fast calibration routine. And that's where we emit sort of pink noise through the speakers, and our microphones pick that up, and we use that information to understand the acoustics of the room and tune the echo canceller. We also have another routine that we call continuous auto calibration. And that's where the speakers emit a very low volume pink noise continuously. And the microphones are continuously listening to the reflections of that pink noise and continuously updating the the echo canceller. The acoustics of a room can change over time. A room sounds very different when it's empty versus when it's full of people. So this continuous routine makes sure that the system's always perfectly tuned for the room.
Great. Is the mist going into an auto mixer? If not, how are you getting the feed to a system for hybrid?
So
we'll let Andy and Todd answer that,
sure.
I was going to say, there's no auto mixer. It's just the control box that comes with the Nureva that has an analog audio output as well as a USB output. You just plug the USB cable into the computer and then select the HDL 310, or in our case 300, as your Zoom microphone, and your audio goes to the Zoom client. I will say that in our law school, we're actually using the analog output to go to a recorder because they actually record their classes on a lecture capture system as well as Zoom. So we're using both the USB output and the analog output and sending the audio to two different places, and that works very well.
Great. Can you install multiple in a room to expand coverage?
Yes. Yeah. A single system will cover a room up to 30 by 30 for the HDL 310. You can add a second bar, which will cover a room of up to about 35 by 55 feet, so quite a large space. And then once you have those two bars, you get some additional features from our merged coverage map, as well as you can get real fancy and do divisible rooms if you need to with two systems.
Todd and Andy, I know you've challenged that, right?
For the size of the rooms, absolutely.
Yeah. We don't have a single dual microphone set up at all.
No,
we've gotten away with one. We've exceeded your specifications by far.
Yeah. Now, in fairness, I will say that we are not using the soundbar as our speakers in the rooms. All of our AV systems have their own amplifier and room speakers, so we're using the Nureva bars as the microphone pickup. But yeah, we're using them in rooms that are 3 and 4 times the size of what they spec, and I mean you can see that in the pictures that we've shown so far. That neither of these rooms fit within their specifications.
I wonder if we should proactively answer that question before it comes, which is, do we support external speakers? And the answer is yes, obviously, from what you just heard. I don't know if you guys want to talk about the setup, the ease of that, or how you went through it.
I mean, for the external speakers, you mean?
Yeah.
Adrian? Well, I mean, we have a standard AV system in the rooms already. Good. What were you gonna say, Andy?
I was just saying, all of our podiums, these were installed in classrooms, so there was already existing AV in the classrooms. These were added after the AV was already installed. So there was already an Extron or a JBL amplifier in the podium, and then either a 70-volt speaker system or an 8-ohm stereo. You know, the sound system was already in place. So we had no use for the speakers in the Nureva products.
So I will not have enough time to answer all these questions, but they're really great ones coming up. Is there any EQ capability that can be adjusted?
Yes. Yeah. In Nureva Console, that's our remote management tool. It's possible to go in and adjust bass and treble for the speaker output.
Great. So there's auto tuning when installed in a combined divide room. When there's auto tuning when installed in a combined divide room, will it auto calibrate for the change in the room configuration?
Yes, and it will do so automatically.
Well, there's a simple answer to that.
Don't want to use too many words.
Alrighty. All-in-one, for example, no DSP and just USB into a Cisco codec, for example?
Yes.
Cisco codecs, that's that's a bit of a moving target. So we integrate with older Cisco codecs through our analog input and output ports. But we are working with Cisco on enabling USB connection on some of the newer codecs.
Great. And what about Dante?
We don't support Dante natively, but it's very easy to add a Dante adapter either on the analog input and output ports or on the USB port.
And we have a recommended one from Audinate for both.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. Good, thanks.
Great. And Andy and Todd, I think you can answer this one pretty nicely. Can it be used in a hall for small theatrical presentations?
I wouldn't see why not.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean, we have not specifically done that, but you know, I would think that it would work perfectly fine for that application. I've encouraged a friend of mine who does sound for a large church, and they were looking for a device to capture in some of their sanctuary for live recording and things like that, and I've encouraged him to go look at the Nureva. So I would think that in a small theatrical space, it would pick up just fine.
Great. Is or will this soon be certified for Microsoft Teams rooms?
Yes, so the HDL 300, which are the devices that Andy and Todd have deployed, are already certified for Microsoft Teams rooms against the large room specification. And then we're in the process of certifying our new HDL 410 and HDL 310 against the extra large and large room specifications respectively.
Great. Boy. Oh, well, this isn't a question, it's a statement. Dish Network is a relatively new user of the Nureva products, and they are amazing. We love them. That wasn't paid, swear.
Thanks, guys. They did their first demo from this very room. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
they did.
Nice.
Love the shout out.
Nice. Can you use data from this to steer a camera?
That's a very good question. Who should answer that?
I can answer that. The answer is yes. So the way I described how microphone mist technology works, you can tell that our solution knows where in the room people are talking, and we can export that data to a camera director box through an API. And so we already have integrations published for our HDL 300 and HDL 310 with companies like Aver and Lumens.
And Extron.
And Extron. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So let's go to our next topic, because we could really answer questions for another 3 hours, and we will. We'll still get more. So how does this technology translate into actual value for a buyer, a user of a meeting room audio in large spaces? So what's the value proposition?
I mean, honestly, I mean, as far as we're concerned, it's a resource issue. Both from a money standpoint, because although they're more expensive than your low end options, they're not nearly as expensive as putting in high-end mic arrays, something like that, into a room. And as far as time of installation goes, there's no question that this is about the easiest microphone solution that I've ever done in my life, and I've been doing this for 30 years now. And like I said before, Andy and I can go in a room and in 30 or 40 minutes we're out of that room with a full installation done. So if time equals money, that's a real savings right there.
Your time always equals money. However, we know that, and we're getting this question. And so how many rooms did you say this is installed in?
And at Duquesne, we have it 100. We just installed our 100th.
Okay, so how do you get it's time's money, but product acquisition's money too. So talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
How did this the cost of the mist systems differ from other systems that you've either purchased or looked at them for comparison?
Here at Duquesne, I mean, we're spending about $3,000 on one of these systems. Without mentioning competitors' names, we've put in a couple, like I said before, we've put in a couple of beamforming array microphones in our law school, and those were close to $4,500 per system. One of the nice things about the Nureva is it's one box. You buy the box and everything comes in it. You're not buying several parts. So you're not buying a microphone and a separate controller and this and that to make it all work. But everything comes in one package and you install and you're done.
And actually, that's leads into a question that came in. What are the parts? What are all the parts in this system?
I'll cover that. So I'll go back to our wide camera angle here. I think everyone can still see the pictures. Yes. So the photos, you can see the bars, one on top of that display. Here in the room with me, we've got the bar above me. That's part one. That's obvious. That's the thing that you can see. The next part of the system is this right here. So this is called the Connect module. My apologies for the lighting. And you can see that it's got all the ports on the back, some lights on the front to identify, whether it's connected, whether it's got power, if it's on the internet, and then that's it. It's a two-part system. This typically would be placed near the in-room PC because it is a USB connection, and then you've got the Cat 6 run that Andy and Todd were describing to the bar.
Nice. And lots of cable, I think you said, came along with it.
Comes with a 50-foot long Cat 6 cable.
Great.
But you can use your own category cable as required. There's nothing too special about the cable.
And as far as a distance run, we've run a cable over 120 feet without a problem to the Nureva, so it's not limited to 50 feet.
Great. Question: could this be pole mounted, or does it have to be wall mounted?
Normally it's wall mounted, but we are coming up with more and more solutions for providing other mounting capabilities. For example, a mounting bracket that allows you to mount the microphone speaker bar above a display. And yes, we have had customers install our microphone speaker bars on a variety of different hardware configurations.
Great. I think an interesting question. Is this just for outbound audio, or is this also usable for in-room PA?
The system handles both. So it includes speakers. It does its own echo cancellation, and you can connect external speakers to it, as Andy and Todd have described.
Great. You've probably answered this one before, but never hurts to repeat. Distance limitation?
So a single HDL 310 will cover a room of up to 30 feet by 30 feet, and adding a second bar, which is the HDL 410, will cover a room of up to 35 by 55 feet, unless you're Todd and Andy, where one will cover just about whatever you want.
I think your CFO is really happy with you guys. Alrighty. Will Nureva introduce booster speakers to complement the bars?
Yeah, that is a good question. So again, we can, today you can connect external speakers to our system, and we can echo cancel the microphone signal with external speakers. We have considered offering our own speakers. I'd love to, if you have any feedback on that, or any advice for us, please let us know.
James Rempel at Nureva.com. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know we're going to talk about roadmap, but we're getting a lot of these questions in now anyway. So any plans for built-in camera?
Not at this point in time. It's something we think about cameras a lot. You've heard that we already are implementing or enabling camera integrations with third-party camera companies. We have introduced a camera called the CV30 that's specific for classroom use. But in general, our view is that for these larger rooms, our customers typically need the flexibility to choose the right camera and the right camera location for the room. And so building a camera in could be too restrictive. And so we like maintaining the flexibility, but still providing levels of integration.
Great. So is there a limitation to, I mean, how small of a room would you put this in?
You know, our systems can work in very small rooms. In fact, I don't even think we know the answer to that. We haven't found a room small enough to make them not work. It really comes down to, you know, at what point does it become overkill?
Yeah, I would say that during the pandemic, not to go back into that part of our collective history, but I had an HDL 300 in my office at home. You remember that?
Yeah.
And that room was 12 feet by 8 feet, and it absolutely worked great, but maybe slightly overkill budget-wise for a room that small. Oh, here we go. Here's an HDL.
There's another product, yeah. Well, we've put a couple of these in, and they just go right underneath the TV like that. And that's if you have a much smaller conference room and don't want to spend the money on a HDL, 300 for a tiny space. That they work just as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, this is the HDL 200.
So that the HDL 200 is designed for rooms up to about 18 feet by 18 feet.
Nice.
Yeah, and this is either a 10 or 12 person conference room, so it's not a very big space.
Yeah. Good. Oh wow. We've really covered quite a bit. So, James and Adrian, what's next? What's next for the MIST technology? I know we've already asked you some very leading questions, but what do you see?
Yeah, well, one area we've already discussed a bit is certifications, and so we already work with Microsoft with our HDL 300, and we're in the process of getting certifications for our newer products, the HDL 310 and 410. The HDL 300 is already certified for Zoom rooms as well, and again, we're looking at adding our new products to that list. Certifications are difficult. There's a lot of testing and tweaking and tuning required to achieve certification. So it's a lot of effort, but well worth it. The other thing I can say is that we have probably the biggest team in the company is our firmware team that does all of the audio processing algorithm development. And I kind of think of microphone MIST technology, it's a new technology. If you think about a technology S-curve, we're still towards the bottom of that S-curve, and we feel like we've only scratched the surface in terms of what the technology can do. And so we're continually creating improvements in the algorithms, and we make those improvements available to our existing customers, either through firmware updates or through an updated Connect module.
Nice. An interesting question come in. Nureva is a Canadian company, yes?
Yes, we are, proudly. Thank you.
Nice. Components, microphones, where are they manufactured?
They're manufactured overseas. Right now, we have a few different countries that we manufacture in.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So I am. What other vertical markets are you seeing this in? I mean, this really cool technology. We've got Duquesne University here, which is really wonderful. What other markets have you been seeing this technology used in, and what's the overall market reaction been?
I think Andy and Todd are actually really good, I'll say, examples of the story, right? One room that we've tried a bunch of different stuff in, it didn't work. And then they try one, despite being skeptical, which is very common. I mean, I do these demos all day, every day, and it is incredibly common to people being skeptical. And that is even across all industries. To specifically answer the question, though, outside of the education sector, we're seeing a lot of interest in corporate for large training rooms, specifically multi-purpose and divisible rooms, which is why I said it earlier, as well as people coming back into spaces that have been underutilized for the last 2.5 years that are looking for a refresh, where there's already existing infrastructure and they're looking to improve the microphone pickup within that existing system. So it would be hard to pick specific verticals. It's more about specific use cases and experiences that people are trying to deliver.
But I think a lot of the comments from Andy and Todd apply equally well to the meeting room environment. And you know, with companies now having their employees come back to the office, there's a huge demand to roll out conferencing technology in all of the shared spaces, whether they're Zoom rooms or team rooms. And you know, IT managers are stretched thin, and they're looking for ways to make the deployment of technology more scalable. And I think Nureva audio conferencing products fit the bill there.
You know, to your point about the divisible rooms and, you know, return to the office, I did a panel yesterday, and there's an interior architect from HOK on the panel. And one of the big trends that they're seeing at HOK is multi-purpose rooms, you know, whether it's changing a cafeteria into a town hall meeting space or just a general meeting space, just air walls, you know, so they're really trying to look at flexibility within their spaces. So that's, you know, definitely a trend that's happening there. Question, do you offer evaluation demo units?
We do. We'd love to talk to you about that. Reach out to us at sales@nureva.com.
And that means you're sending one to me, right?
Didn't we already?
It wasn't my question. It was somebody else's. No, you didn't. So, you know, Andy and Todd, what are you hoping to see next from Nureva?
Well, I think if you go back to that, something would be nice, and I know we kind of talked about this. I'm going to throw this picture back up here, but you see on the right there where we have the HDL 200. Notice on the top of that display, there is a Logitech webcam on top of that. With the smaller 200 series microphones, it would be cool to have a camera built into that, because you think about it, that TV that's just going out to a conference room, it doesn't need to, the camera doesn't need to be moved or tilted or zoomed or anything. It just picks up that conference room table. And you had something built in, that microphone like that, that's one less thing we have to install, one less, you know, thing, USB device plugged in. That's something I'd like to see, is the cameras integrated into the products themselves.
Great.
Did you take note of that?
I have, yes. No, that's good.
All right, I have more questions coming in.
You call it camera mist or something, maybe.
I don't think that would work. We've got a couple of people just saying amen to that. They're looking for that. Let's see. Can't have their demo back. So I think we've answered this generally. Zoom's multi-framing technology makes camera locations a lot more flexible now, which is why all-in-one units like a Nearby Pro work very, very well for large rooms. This technology would be great to have. Oh, okay, well, you just answered that. Noted. So let's see. This has really been quite an amazing discussion. So many different questions answered, and still many more coming in. What would be your parting thoughts for folks on this, attending? What would be some advice if they're looking to integrate this type of technology?
Honestly, I would say don't wait. Get a demo unit and find out for yourselves. Don't make the mistake we did. Don't set the demo unit up on an 8-foot folding table and expect for it to work, because it will not work well. And the first time you do your demo, you're going to say, well, this is crap. Why would I spend $3,000 on this microphone? But really, I can't say enough how impressed I am. And like I said before, audio is my passion, and audio has been my life's work for 30 years. And I still to this day am amazed that this one bar will do what it will truly do. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to say something nice about the actual Nureva customer service team. We have a building that is located right beside a power substation. We had 2 microphones, HDL 300s, in the corner of this building, one on the floor above the other, where we just got horrible interference on the microphone. And Todd and I spent a lot of time troubleshooting it, also with other people in our department via Zoom calls. We couldn't figure it out, and we called Nureva and spoke to the support team about it a little bit. And they actually sent us 2 brand new HDL 300s with better shielding on it. And I don't know if they just took them apart and wrapped it in tinfoil or whatever, but they sent it back, and like they were wonderful. Like they fixed the interference problem that we had by making better shielded HDL 300s. And that was very nice, you guys, to do. I don't know a lot of companies that would do that.
That resulted in an overall engineering change too. That's one of the things that I really like about working at Nureva, is when we encounter situations like that, we take them seriously. We act on them to the best of our ability. We just, another similar situation, had a customer that, for whatever reason, 9 of their units were failing, and we sent one of our people down, replaced all 9 units. So we take that seriously, and I'm glad you told that story. Thank you.
Nice.
I'm still waiting for my check for the redesign. Anytime you want to send that out, you have my email and the thing. We're send it PayPal too is fine.
Hey, speaking of email, yesterday, Andy and Todd, you mentioned that if anybody wanted to reach out to you guys directly, if they had questions, that they should feel free to do that. Do you mind sharing your email?
No, sure. It's Hughes, HUGHES, T and the number 4 at duq.edu.
Great. And if you didn't catch it, you can watch the replay tomorrow.
Yep.
And Andy?
Yeah, mine's my last name, Beasom, 288 at duq.edu.
And they are also in our bios.
Oh, perfect.
It should be there too.
Nice, thank you. And once more, James and Adrian, how should people reach out to you guys?
Email is the best approach. I think our emails are in the bios. Another thing we should mention, though, is that if anyone wants to hear a demo of how the system works in this room, we have a schedule a demo button on our website, and it's really easy to use. You can schedule a live demo pretty much anytime.
And if you want to hear the larger one or the smaller one, those options are available as well. And if we have our phone number listed on the website as well, don't hesitate to call. And again, sales@nureva.com is constantly monitored. The whole team looks at it. So if you have any questions, we're happy to help.
Wow, we are up on the hour. This has been really great. So much fun. More questions that we couldn't get to without another 3 hours. I can't thank you enough, Adrian, James, Andy, and Todd, for this enlightening discussion. It was really a lot of fun. And thank you to the attendees. I mean, my gosh, tons of questions that just kept us going on and on. But before we leave, don't forget to check out the related content. to download from Nureva, and the on-demand version will be available about 24 hours after the webcast has concluded. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.